There's a certain type of person with a certain kind of wound from childhood, and an invisible wound that we often don't talk about enough. And oftentimes, that person doesn't even know they have it. Because of the nature of the experience in childhood, you're afraid to rely upon others. In fact, asking for help feels deeply uncomfortable in your body, that you often just do things on your own. Deep inside, you don't really feel like you know who you are, what you love, what you don't like, and know your passions and dreams. When you feel sort of empty inside when it comes to your identity at times. Now you might know what your job is, but who are you is where you struggle. You're really hard on yourself. You have a poor self-compassion, and when you think about yourself, it's always with a very harsh sort of evaluation and light along those lines. You almost always blame yourself if someone's upset or something bad happens. The assumption is it's something to do with you, and often that you did something wrong. You're in trouble, they're mad, things like that. A large part of you feels often numb and cut off from emotions. And so true vulnerability is really scary for you. You might be able to be really sensitive inside and know what you feel, or you might be really cut off. So it can kind of split. But when it comes to sharing that with someone else, either way, that is really not something you ever want to do. You may have a big dream, but you tend to give up easily on things. You'll get started and then decide this will never happen, so why bother? You have a pretty low self-esteem and a pretty negative sense of itself in general. So you never see yourself the way the rest of the world might see you. You're extra sensitive to rejection. In fact, you're always looking for being rejected. And it just feels like a deep wound every time you have an experience where you don't feel like you've been accepted and allowed to be who you are. Even though at times you're not really sure who that is, you tend to want to be alone more than you want to admit. And that's oftentimes the place where you can be your authentic self the most. But deep inside, you tend to find that isolating is how you deal with many of your feelings. Generally, you're sort of independent and anonymous in many ways. You can get things done. But once again, it's almost like you're really lonely in doing that, because it's pretty much almost always just you kind of tolerating through the hardest parts of your life, even if you have a partner. And lastly, you feel deeply unloved and unworthy. At the end of the day, that you can't say why or you're unloved or unworthy. You just feel that you are. These really come often from emotional neglect, which is the invisible type of abuse in childhood. It's what parents don't do. That is why you don't see it, and that's why it's so hard to heal it.